black waiter fed two little orphans. 22 years later, a black Rolls-Royce appeared in front of his hotel. The rain fell in heavy silver sheets over the cracked sidewalks of downtown Chicago. It was 1998, the year of boy bands, dial-up internet, and hope stitched together with duct tape. Inside Mama Lou's diner, tucked between a pawn shop and a laundromat, sat a man named Elijah Carter, 28 years old, quiet eyes, calloused hands, and a heart too big for the apron he wore. Elijah wasn't just a waiter. He was the kind of man who remembered your coffee order before you sat down, who'd slip an extra biscuit into your bag if he saw you counting change, who smiled even when his feet ached and his tips were thin. One cold November night, just before closing, the bell above the door jingled. In walked two children, a boy of 10, gripping the hand of his 8-year-old sister. Their coats were thin, their shoes mismatched and soaked, no adult in sight. Elijah's heart clenched. He knelt beside them, ignoring the grease stains on his knees. "Hey there, little stars," he said gently. "You lost?" The boy, Marcus, shook his head, eyes darting like sparrows. "We're not lost, we're waiting." "For who?" Elijah asked. "Our aunt. She said she'd meet us here." That was a lie. Elijah knew it. The way the girl Lily clutched her brother's sleeve, fingers trembling, told him everything. He didn't press. Instead, he led them to a booth, draped his own coat over their shivering shoulders, and brought them hot chocolate with extra whipped cream. On the house, he winked. They ate in silence, not the awkward kind, the sacred kind, the kind that happens when hunger meets kindness and both are finally fed. When closing time came, no aunt appeared. Elijah called social services. But before they arrived, he sat with them, told them stories about his own childhood, how he'd once slept in a car with his mama, how food sometimes came from dumpsters, how strangers had saved him too. "You're gonna be okay," he whispered to Lily, brushing a crumb from her cheek. "Even when it feels like the world forgot you, someone's always watching, someone always cares." The social worker took them away that night. Elijah stood in the doorway, rain soaking his shirt, watching the taillights disappear. He didn't know if he'd ever see them again. He didn't need to. He'd done what his soul asked of him. Years passed. Elijah worked double shifts, saved every dime, took night classes, got certified in hospitality management. By 2005, he managed Mama Lou's. By 2010, he bought it, renamed it Carter's Hearth. It wasn't fancy, but it was warm. The kind of place where lonely souls came to remember they weren't alone. He never married, never had kids of his own. "The world's my family," he'd say with a shrug. And in many ways it was. He fed students during finals week, gave Thanksgiving dinners to the homeless, kept a blessing jar by the register. Customers could drop in spare change, and those in need could take what they required, no questions asked. Still, sometimes late at night he'd think of Marcus and Lily, wondered if they were safe, if they remembered the hot chocolate, if they still believed someone cared. He never expected an answer. Then came the spring of 2020. The world was masked and muted. Businesses shuttered. Fear hung thick in the air. Carter's Hearth stayed open, takeout only, because Elijah refused to let his neighbors go hungry. One afternoon, as he wiped down tables alone, the bell chimed. He looked up and froze. There, in the doorway, stood a woman, tall, elegant, dark curls framing a face that held both strength and softness. Beside her, a man, broad-shouldered, eyes sharp but kind. Both wore tailored coats. Both stared at him like they were seeing a ghost. "Mr. Carter," the woman whispered. Elijah's breath caught. "Lily," she burst into tears. Behind her, Marcus stepped forward, no longer a shivering boy, but a man carved from resilience. "You don't remember us, do you?" "I remember everything," Elijah said, voice cracking. "Every crumb, every sip of cocoa, every lie about your aunt." They laughed through tears. They sat, and for 2 hours they told him their story. After that night in 1998, they'd been placed in foster care, shuffled between homes, schools, heartbreaks, but they held on to each other, and they held on to the memory of the man who fed them without judgment. Marcus got into coding at 15, built apps in his foster bedroom, won a scholarship to MIT. Now he ran a tech firm specializing in AI for social good. Lily, she became a pediatric surgeon, because someone once made me feel safe when I was scared, she said, glancing at Elijah. "I wanted to be that person for other kids." They'd spent years searching for him. Social services had no records. The diner had changed hands twice. But last month, Marcus's algorithm, designed to track down unsung heroes, pinged a match. Elijah Carter, owner, Carter's Hearth. And here we are, Marcus said, smiling. Elijah wiped his eyes with his apron. You two, you turned pain into purpose. I'm so proud I could burst. They hugged, long, tight, the kind of hug that mends decades. Then Lily reached into her purse. We didn't come empty-handed. She placed an envelope on the table. Inside, a check for $2.2 million. Elijah nearly dropped it. What in the Lord's name? It's not charity, Marcus said firmly. It's investment. In you. In this place. In the next Marcus and Lily who walked through that door. Elijah shook his head. I can't accept this. You don't have a choice, Lily said, grinning through tears. We're your kids now, and kids take care of their daddy, he cried then. Ugly, heaving sobs. Not because of the money, but because after 22 years, love had circled back. Full, fierce, unbroken. They left that evening, promising to return. Elijah stood at the window, watching them climb into a sleek black Rolls-Royce Phantom, license plate, Hearth 22. He laughed. Of course they'd roll up in style. The next morning, Elijah called a contractor. Carter's Hearth expanded, became a community center by day, offering free meals, GED classes, job training. By night, still a diner, still warm, still his. He hired formerly incarcerated men and women, partnered with local schools, started a scholarship fund in Marcus and Lily's names. Every Thanksgiving, Marcus and Lily returned. Always in that black Rolls, always bearing gifts, not just money, but time. Marcus taught coding classes, Lily ran free health clinics, and every year, without fail, they ordered hot chocolate, extra whipped cream, and sat in the same booth where it all began. One snowy evening in 2023, Elijah stood outside his diner, now glowing with string lights and laughter. A young boy, no older than 8, sat alone on the curb, shivering. Elijah didn't hesitate. He walked over, knelt, smiled. Hey there, little star, he said softly. You hungry? The boy nodded. Elijah took his hand, led him inside, ordered cocoa, extra whipped cream. As the boy sipped, Elijah whispered, You're gonna be okay, even when it feels like the world forgot you. Someone's always watching. Someone always cares. The boy looked up. You promise? Elijah placed a hand over his heart. Cross my soul. And in the reflection of the diner window, if you looked closely, you'd swear you saw the faint outline of 2 grown-up ghosts, smiling, watching, grateful. Elijah Carter passed away peacefully in 2035, at age 65, surrounded by hundreds, former foster kids, scholarship recipients, employees he'd mentored, neighbors he'd fed. His obituary didn't mention the millions. It didn't need to. It simply read, he fed the hungry, he saw the invisible, he turned strangers into family. His table was always open, his heart never full enough to turn anyone away. Marcus and Lily inherited Carter's Hearth, expanded it to 10 cities, launched a global foundation, the Cocoa Promise, ensuring no child goes unseen, unfed, or unloved. And every year, on that November night, a black Rolls-Royce pulls up to each location. Marcus and Lily step out, order 2 hot chocolates, sit in silence, and remember, because sometimes, just sometimes, kindness doesn't vanish into the wind. It comes back, in a black car, with extra whipped cream, and a promise kept. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe. Let's remind the world, no act of kindness is ever wasted. Someone somewhere is waiting for your cocoa.